cannot rightly expect a serpent, a snake, to stop being a snake. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, Day 5 of the Torah portion, V'Yislach, and Descent. We're still in Bereshit, or Genesis, chapter 34. Let's go down to verse number 20, and it reads, And Hamor and Shechem his son came to the gate of their city, and spoke with the men of their city, saying, These men, referencing Yaakov and family, are at peace with us. So let them dwell in the land and move about in it, and see the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters for us for wives. Let us give them our daughters. Only on this condition would the men agree to dwell with us, to be one people, if every male among us is circumcised as they are circumcised. Their herds and their possessions and all their beasts, should they not be ours? Only let us agree with them and let them dwell with us. So it says in the next verse, everybody agreed and went out and was circumcised. It has been argued against the sons of Yaakov that they dwelt or dealt treacherously, deceptively, with Hamor and Shechem. And it plainly says that they did so, in that they had no intention of allowing Dinah to become the wife of Shechem. And it says in verse 13, the sons of Yaakov answered Shechem and Hamor his father and spoke with deceit. Specifically for this reason, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. So they knew all along that this plan was not going to work and that there was not going to be an assimilation. They would not allow that. So what was this circumcision all about? One line of argument says that once these men of Shechem had circumcised themselves, they took on the obligations of the covenant of Abraham. Therefore, they became guilty of breaking that covenant with their idolatries and their paganism, and the Torah says that they were to be destroyed. One might very easily argue that's dancing through some loopholes, and maybe so. However, the point for today is it says then that the words that they spoke to Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son, pleased them. And in verse 19 it says, the young man did not delay to do this because he delighted in Yaakov's daughter. What that tells us is he did not wait to be circumcised. He did it first or early. And because of that, it says then he was more respected than all the household of his father. He held a great amount and deal of sway and persuasion with those that were around him. He was influential. And so it may have been a noise that brought, well, Shechem's already been circumcised. Well, let's go ahead and do so as well. They acted with deception and treachery on their own part. Their reasoning was, the issue is not Dinah. This is only the key that opens the door for all of us. They persuaded the men of their city, the men of their region, to allow themselves to be circumcised with the understanding of once these Israelites, these people of Israel, this family of Yaakov, once they began to intermarry with us, we get it all. See all those flocks? You see all those herds? You see all that wealth out there on the land out and around the city? We're going to get that. It's going to be ours. Patience. Just be patient. And so there is the fable, the story that talks about how that an animal heard a snake talking about being in despair and asking for rescue. And when it rescued the snake bit it, because that's the nature of the snake. We cannot be surprised when Hasatan, our adversary, the tempter, the adversary, the deceiver, acts deceptively. There is, again, and I'm trying not to belabor the issue of the war in Gaza, but I think everyone understands and knows that when Hamas makes a vow and a promise, you cannot anticipate that that's going to be kept long term. You would not be surprised then that when they break their vows, break their promises, it should not shock us because that's who they are. In the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter number 11, in verse 3, Rav Shaul says, "But I am afraid lest as the serpent deceived Chava, or Eve, by his trickery, so your minds should be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Messiah." One of the favorite tactics of our adversary is to steer us away from that which is the basic truth and get us over into areas where things had to be so profound and so heavy and so deep that if they're not that, they otherwise we're bored. Recently, the Ruach has been leading me to read again the book of Matthew. And you know that when you start the book of Matthew, you got all the begats up front. But I sat down and I started to read. Just reading the simplicity of the word. It's hard for my mind to be quiet and just simply read because I'm always thinking, what can I preach and what can I teach out of this? Sometimes Barry just needs to sit down and read the word and let the word speak to him. And so I've been trying to do that. And out of the begats, I began to see, oh, I didn't know that. And just reading the simplicity of the storyline. It's not about the sewed level all the time. Sometimes we just need to read the simplicity of the word. Continuing over in verse 13, "For such are false emissaries, deceptive workers, masquerading as emissaries of Messiah, and no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as a messenger of light." What's interesting here is, according to the Chumash, a Jewish rabbinical commentary, it says here that he is called the Hivite. And it asks the question, was he a Hivite? He was an Amorite, as is spoken of in chapter 48 and verse 22, and you can read that. Rather, Hori, that is a word for Hivite, Hori is an Aramaic word meaning serpentine. It describes the serpent-like, treacherous manner in which Shechem acted, and that's according to the Midrash. So the idea of his identity shares that Shechem was serpent-like, deceptive, and just as the serpent deceived Chava in the garden, presenting himself as a messenger of light, Shechem's doing the same thing here. Be careful who we listen to. You cannot think that a snake is going to change its nature. Not going to happen. Shabbat Shalom. May you find rest. May you find deep rest and calmness to your spirit. And may the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit of Yah, refresh you. I know many of you are worn out. May you just be refreshed and find shalom in him. Until next week, Shabbat Shalom.